Full of idle, classical music is playing. Beautiful roses are blooming, thanks to which the fragrance spreads throughout the room. A red-haired girl sits down at her easel. She hasn't painted for a long time, but still she decided to try, and it turned out to be even good. She has a style. A few more light brush touches, and after that, more lively touches, and she had it. A portrait in the style of Viola. But after looking at her painting, the girl experienced some unpleasant feelings. She thought about whether this is her artistic ability. She is well aware that even a 4-year-old baby will draw better than her. After the girl lies down with the thought that she is missing, she does not manage to pretend as if she is Viola. And now she does not understand what she has to do. She is Viola, but she cannot draw, and all because she is not a real Viola. A completely different girl in a sports uniform thinks that she signed up for this course because she was just curious, but she has no knowledge of art, but her scholarship depends on her grade, and she can't work as a stuntman or a courier all the time. She needs to get an A for the course. The girl says that she went to the gallery for an exhibition of surrealist paintings, and if you think about it, when she was a child, when she took drawing classes, she dreamed that her paintings would be exhibited. But she quickly gave up because of her lack of talent. She looked at the painting, thinking that such paintings were not bad, though maybe she thought so because she herself was not a good painter. She liked that paintings could be judged not only by the level of skill. One could use some special technique or draw a pipe and say that it was not a pipe. For example, this picture, a girl comes closer to the picture, which depicts a silhouette of a man on the background of geometric figures. The girl does not understand what is painted there, as suddenly notices the description, which says that this picture is one of the legendary paintings. It fulfills wishes. The girl was surprised because she thought it was a joke, or maybe the gallery is so bad that they put up even this. But her skeptical mood was replaced by a desire to try. Since she came here, she would not want to lose this chance. The girl folded her hands and prayed that she would like to live the life she never had. After these phrases, she opened her eyes and realized that nothing had happened exactly as she thought it would. Then she looked at the painting again, and now it seemed to her that the painting smiled. But she realized that it was all just a dream. The girl touched the painting, but then a guard came up to her and told her that paintings should not be touched with hands, after which she apologized and moved away. But nevertheless, immediately after that, the painting sucked the girl inside herself, and she lost consciousness. And then she opened her eyes in a place she didn't know before. She doesn't realize where she is and what's going on. She only manages to notice that this room she woke up in is full of paintings. After the girl got up and looked at herself in the mirror, she saw her new image. Now she had long red hair and a very pretty face. As soon as she saw herself in her head, immediately began to pop up memories. But they were not hers, but Viola Helen, the mistress of this body. The girl looked at herself again and thought maybe it was all a dream, and right after that, she noticed an interesting book. It was called, "At the End of the Villain's Journey is a Red Rose." Viola thought it was probably some kind of novel. It is surprising, but Viola is a supporting character in this novel. In the story, she was a negative character who will die an ignominious death at the end. She tried to seduce the main character's lover, was evil and jealous, and in the end, she was killed by the main character. Viola thought to herself that she didn't like it at all. And then she began to notice how the title of the book was slowly but surely disappearing, and the content of the book itself was disappearing as well. She wonders if she really got into the novel of the book, and her wish that she made in front of the picture is now realized. She has never lived such a life. The girl clutched her head, screaming, "Where is it seen that a person can get into the plot of the book and not the main character, but a secondary character?" she cried hysterically. But after a while, she realized that she should calm down. She accepted the fact that now she is the heroine of the book and a minor character. And since everything turned out so it should try to find happiness in this world, she will not live like Viola from the book, but will just enjoy quietly his life. Especially, no one will not even bother that she did not return to her world. The girl for the first time happily realized that she has no family. But there is a problem. It is that in this world, art with its long history is very much appreciated, especially painting. Viola and Robina have always competed with each other with the help of paintings, but to be honest, the girl knows that only Viola perceived the main character as a rival. Robina was very gifted, so Viola always tried to steal ideas from her and copied her. The fact is that she also had a talent, just not like Robina. The girl is sad because she realizes that she does not have the most important thing to be Viola. She has no talent. But after a moment, she had a thought that maybe she can still draw beautifully if she is in Viola's body, and from now on, she is Viola Helen. The girl was inspired and thought that she would be able to paint pictures, but the result was very disappointing. She has only the appearance of Viola, but not her abilities. That's the end of her memories. But then the girl opened her eyes and realized that it was too early to despair. She remembered that when she moved into the body of Viola, she had an accident in which she was left barely alive, so it would not be strange if she suddenly lost their abilities, because in any case, she cannot keep up with Robina. After she thought maybe she should look at her painting again, she did, and her thoughts that she was a bad painter were confirmed. She thinks that anyone who looks at this painting will realize that she has no talent for painting. But on the other hand, it is what is needed, because she will not have to fight with the main character and she will start a new life. In this case, the plot will develop in a completely different direction, and she will not die a shameful death. Suddenly, the girl hears a voice at the door calling her mistress and asking for permission to enter. Viola was surprised by this, but came to her senses and told her to go in. A maid comes in. Viola calls her Jenna and asks if it's right, and the maid gets scared and asks if she did something wrong. Viola has thoughts that she just called the maid by her name. What's wrong with that? And wonders how Viola needed to take out her anger on the maid that she's shaking. Viola says it's nothing, and then asks if something happened, why the maid came to her, and Janie says Viola will soon have to go to the meeting, and she came to help the lady to change her clothes, in response to which the girl at first does not understand what meeting is about, and after she realizes that it is Lady Robina's meeting, she asks the maid not to worry, as she will deal with everything herself. Janie apologizes, and sweat runs down her face. Viola thinks maybe the maid is afraid that she will reprimand the maid for not doing anything and not helping her change her clothes as she should have. But she needs to calm her down, Lady Viola thinks. She smiles, making a little strange face, and says to the maid Mole, she said she would do everything herself, and the girl was very frightened by this reaction and apologized for her behavior because she let herself go. Janie said that then she would go, and Viola said that she did not mean that. Viola knows that first of all she has to work on her smile. After that she chooses a dress. She doesn't understand why there are so many open dresses in her closet, so she chooses the most normal one out of all the dresses. And then she admires her appearance and figure. Viola laughed and told the assembly and all its guests to wait for her. The maid looked at all this and realized that her mistress had become strange, and it made her feel a certain sense of bewilderment for what was going on. The girl went in a carriage to the meeting. She looked out the window and she is impossibly delighted by this world. It seems to Viola like a fairy tale, so beautiful and fantastic. She is simply delighted with everything that is happening. Viola asks if they have arrived and if this is the home of the main character, Robina. Ogling at all these places that are described in the novel, Viola begins to realize a little bit that she has entered this world. Viola goes inside the house and notices that inside the house, everything is just gorgeous and on the heights. But the other artists pay attention to her and are silent. But she greets the girls and tries to hide her admiration under the mask of mystery and inaccessibility. The girls continue to be silent, and Viola realizes how unfriendly the atmosphere here is, although it was expected for her. But if no one is happy to see her here, it is too rude to ignore the greeting. Viola realizes that if that's the case, then you have to be patient. She expected it. Because now she is a villain, Viola. Besides, it is not for nothing they say that everyone lives his life alone, and to show yourself from the other side, it is necessary to walk with a firm gait and sit as far away from Robina as possible. Robina asks Viola why she didn't sit next to her today, because she had a seat reserved for her, to which Viola replies because she just wants to paint in that seat today. Robina is upset and tears in her eyes asks how so, and her artist friend asks Viola what she has planned to do. To this, Viola smiles her strange smile and says she just likes this angle and that's all. All the girls are staring at Viola, which makes her a little uncomfortable. But still she thinks that they can look at her as much as they want, because soon they will see her painting and fall down from surprise. The girl moves her brush and mentally repeats to herself that soon they will be able to see what a talentless person like her can do. Girl has done everything she can. But the result is the same as before. She thinks that now she can give up painting, and if she does not follow Robino and go to these meetings, she may be able to avoid death. Looking at the rest of the girl realizes that they all really have artistic talent. It is as if she came to the exhibition of paintings. But compared to them, her painting is just terrible. But only her thoughts drowned out the conversations of the girls. One of them said that it was the first time she saw such a style, because she had never seen anything like it before. And the other said that it was amazing. In Viola's mind, she thought that it was natural. They had never seen such a horrible caraculas. The artist continued by saying that she didn't think Viola had such a creative style, which really shocked Viola, and she asked what kind of style. Did she say creative? She continues to think that with all of them, while the girls are discussing that so far there has been nothing like it. It looks a little insecure, but those rough strokes. Viola thinks there's something wrong, or they're saying it on purpose, she tells them, first asking if the painting looks strange, and then adding that she should quit painting after all. The artist denies all of her above, saying it is a masterpiece, because the girl used such an unusual abstract method, and therefore her style is now visible again. But Viola does not share their views. She does not understand what they are talking about, and thinks that they are massively crazy. Maybe they are mocking her. But then the girl realizes that they are talking sincerely. Viola then pointed to Robina's painting, saying that the girl had painted the flowers so similarly, thinking to herself that she had done much better than she had, which made Robina feel very uncomfortable. One of the artists said that of course Lady Robina's picture was marvelous, but the other artist paid attention to Viola and said that her masterpiece should be seen by the whole world. But the other artist, full of lack of understanding of what they were talking about, asked why it was all necessary. The other artist gave an answer, saying that it would be a pity to bury such a talent. Robina took her by the shoulder and told her that she felt the same way, and that she agreed with the other artists. She blushed a little, but still her eyes were sincere. She suggested Viola to exhibit her painting because she wanted her talent and efforts to be seen by everyone. Viola has very blinding eyes after Robina's words, but still, she is the main character, so all her lines are beautiful. But then the girl thought that if everyone in this world sees differently, and then she can even become a local Picasso. Viola, together with other artists drinking tea, they ask the girl if she is bored with their conversations, since she is always silent, and the girl replies that she is not, and they can talk quietly and consider that she is not here at all. She thought to herself that she has nothing to say anyway. One of the artists suggested that Lady Viola probably likes to talk about men more than about paintings, to which Viola replied that she really knows men well, because as they know she is quite popular among them, to which one of the artists objected that they like Lady Robina better anyway. But even Robina herself does not object to anything. Viola goes on to say that all this was before. But now she does not want to communicate with men. She leans over a cup of tea, takes a sip, and thinks to herself that the reason for this behavior is that she does not want to die chasing a stranger. She just wants to enjoy a quiet, peaceful life. The reasons Viola does not know. But if this world appreciates her paintings, maybe she can fulfill her unfulfilled dream. This shocked the artists. One of them shouted and asked if she was serious, if she didn't want to be in the company of men, if she was sincere. But Viola felt awkward and didn't understand why they were so surprised by her words. After that, she noticed a change on Robina's face. Her face is sweating, and it bothers Viola a lot. She doesn't understand why they have such a reaction to her words. She says that she won't run after her men anymore. One of the girls has shifted her attention to Lady Robina and asks if it is true what they say about her. If she is really married to Duke Evan, the other girl says that they are madly suited for each other. Viola was surprised, because finally it was about the main male character. It is good that the plot of the novel develops so quickly. Evan DeFeloa, the main male character of the book and Robin's lover, he has noble features and a noble article, comes from a ducal family, very caring towards the protagonist of the book in general. Without such a character does not do without any romantic story. Viola and herself would have looked at him if he was not the main character. The girl said, "I wish they could have done well," but right after saying that, she was embarrassed that the others could guess from the expression on her face that she was jealous. She should have kept silent then. She really hoped it wouldn't spoil the atmosphere. After a while, Robina invited Viola to talk to her. Viola is already there, and Robina comes up to her. She wants to say important information for the girl, but it is clear that she hesitates for some reason. But it is not clear what reason Viola is hesitating. Robina had already started to speak, but then she cried, which caused a lot of questions and misunderstanding from Viola's side. After Robina wiped her tears and told why she was crying, she said that honestly, she didn't want this engagement at all. Viola is just horrified. This is something she did not expect. She asked the girl what she said, that she does not want to be engaged to the main character. After this phrase, Viola came to her senses and replaced the words about the main character to the Duke. In response to this, Robina said that if she marries the Duke, she will be very lonely because he will not love her. Viola knows it's not true. That's why she's a bit annoyed by Robina's whining. Viola realizes that it can't even be true. In the novel, Evan and Robina loved each other and lived happily. But why then now she thinks that she won't be loved? Viola said that everything will be fine after the engagement, and then interrogated why the girl thinks about such things. If she has reasons to think so, Robina answers that the Duke does not like even when she touches him, and plus all these rumors. Viola felt uncomfortable and thought for a moment, suggesting that maybe Robina didn't want to marry him because he was castrated. Duke Evan was a withdrawn man and did not know how to talk to girls. Perhaps for this reason, he was called eunuch behind his back. There were even rumors that he liked men. So you can understand Robina's reaction. There were even rumors that he liked men. So you can understand Robina's reaction. But in fact, there was one secret that no one knew about. Viola started to tell Robina, but she interrupted the girl and said no. She just doesn't want to marry out of love. That's why she doesn't want this engagement. After these words, the girl cried again, looked angelically at Viola, and asked if she was really her friend, to which Viola answered positively, whereupon Robina said, "If they are friends, could Viola do one request?" Viola thought how could she refuse when she makes such eyes. After a short pause, Robina takes Viola's hand and asks if she could seduce Duke Evan. Viola turned away from her and said that no, she could not. What kind of request is this? Robina asks why. The Duke is castrated. That is, he is sick, and therefore Viola will not fall in love with such a person. The girl only asks her friend to help her break the engagement, and Viola replies that it is not so simple and simple. Then Viola clutches her head and screams that if everything happens like this, then everything will be like in the book. Viola does not want to take Robina's man and then die. Besides, if Robina does not like him because of these rumors, then everything will be solved, probably. Robina says that she has no one else to ask for help, but Viola is now more embarrassed in front of her. After that, the girl thought that if she just do Robina's request, and maybe then everything will be fine, especially they will not fall in love with each other. With such data, Duke could become a model for posing in the style of nude, and she would like to try such a style of painting. To be honest, it wasn't that hard for Viola to break the engagement, because she knew Evan's secret. She agreed after thinking about it, and then she asked again if she should just break the engagement. And that's it, or something else? She got an answer from Robina, who said yes and thanked her friend, and Viola asked her to trust herself. They look at the same situation differently. On the information about Duke Evan, he rarely appears in high society, does not talk to women and avoids their touch, tall and with a cold look, silver hair and gray eyes. Viola thought about it. She even thinks the guy is quite handsome. Viola knows that if everything goes well, he will be her ideal partner, of course as a model. And judging by the reactions of people to today's artwork, Viola has a good idea in her head. Maybe she will be able to create in this world after all. A few days later, The chance came sooner than Viola thought. The day their circle's paintings were exhibited, in other words, the day of her disgrace. Viola notices how those present are blushing and looking in her direction. She shouts to them to stop staring. As Robina comes up to her, she says that the Duke is already there, and then draws Viola's attention to her dress. Viola immediately thought that the dress should not be so open as usual. The girl said that in her world, open clothes were the weapon of cheap and available girls. Then Viola looked around, but couldn't see Evan, as if he had disappeared like a ghost. If you think about it that way, it was expected. The book said that he likes to be in secluded places, and this is the place. Viola turned to him and asked him if he had seen the paintings. When she heard silence, she went on and said how nice the breeze was. But the guy continued to be silent. He didn't seem to want to start a conversation with her, and even that Viola had already anticipated it. The girl thinks that this will not go. She knows his main secret. Robina thinks that he will not love her, but this is not true. But as for the caster, about this exact information was not anywhere, so Viola and does not know, is the main male character will be like this? If so, then we will have to abandon such a model. Evan pays attention to her and asks the girl where she is looking now, and she turned very pale. She did not expect such a question, so it was a surprise for her. She noticed that the guy's face is as if he sees a crazy person in front of him. Then Viola noticed that Robina is watching her and realized that it is necessary to act. Viola asks the guy if she can make him an offer, to which he asks what kind of application is that, and she replies that she is ready to help him, to which the Duke only looked at her contemptuously and with distrust, and also added that he knows what kind of person she is. Viola says there's no need to get so worked up over her, but the guy refuses, saying she's not the person he should and will get worked up over. Viola asked if he was curious about the help he was offering her, and the guy said he didn't need any help from her. Then the girl asked if he would refuse even if she knew his secret. Thus she puzzled the guy very much. Viola realized that he hesitated, and most likely he is like a cat that is sharpening its claws. But what should she do next? The girl comes closer to the Duke, but he only asks why she comes closer and closer to him. She knows that one more step, and the Duke will be very close to her, and if she reaches out her hand, she will be able to touch the guy. He asks her to stop. The girl raised her head to the guy and said that if she came closer, his whole body would become hot. She didn't lie that she knew his secret. It stunned the guy. The Duke's family had a disease that had been passed down from generation to generation. Touching a woman caused a fever in the body, thus confining the man to bed. There was no cure for this disease. It disappeared on its own after meeting true love. The causes were unknown. No one knew if it was a curse. Immersed in the world of her thoughts, Viola Helen sat comfortably on her bed, immersed in reading a book. The words on the pages absorbed her imagination, bringing a fresh breeze into her ordinary life. The last page of the book plunged her into reflection. As she closed the book, Viola felt a warmth permeating her thoughts. This illness that had haunted the Duke's family for so long had turned into something romantic in her view. Suddenly she felt the color of tenderness staining her cheeks. Her gaze drew away in embarrassment, and her hand slid down gently, supporting the book she cradled in her arms. Thoughts of a disease only healed by true love filled her heart with romantic fantasies. She thinks it's like a princess magically awakening from a prince's kiss. Viola laughed at the thought of comparing it all to a fairy tale, getting Robin as a prince now. Viola approached the Duke at the appointed place, exhaled, and told him that she could help him get rid of this disease. She asked the Duke if he was sure he wanted to give up such a chance. There was confidence in her voice and a glint of hope in her gaze. The Duke began to consider his options. Viola, emphasizing the determination of her offer, interrupted the Duke's train of thought, asking him not to look at her too seriously. She reminded him that her help came at a price. Viola expressed her desire to use the Duke as a model for her paintings. Her words sounded like a light joke, but at the same moment, she delicately made it clear that the proposal was serious. Her mind was filled with mixed emotions, ranging from determination to lightness, and she frankly admitted to herself that she was not yet entirely comfortable painting nude figures. The Duke, with a look of disbelief on his face, could not hide his curiosity and asked Viola what she was up to. Viola said firmly that she was just playing her part in this complicated story. The Duke, not immediately taking her word for it, looked closely at Viola, trying to get at the essence of her intentions. Viola noticed this and wondered if the Duke was a tough nut to crack or if he thought she could really heal him. With her arms crossed over her chest, Viola sighed heavily and turned her head away. From her lips came a reply laden with self-assurance. She told the Duke that he was not her type, and therefore he had no reason to doubt her. At the same time, she frankly admitted that she preferred more assertive men. The Duke met Viola's answer with astonishment, and his surprise was clearly reflected on his face. The Duke met Viola's answer with astonishment, and his surprise was clearly reflected on his face. Duke finally made up his mind and asked Viola why she was trying to help a man who wasn't even her type. He also added that there was no need to talk about the model. After a short silence, Viola said that she needed all this just to have a quiet life. Viola also asked the Duke if he knew that she kept repeating after Robina. Duke sighed. Viola walked over to the Duke, put her hand on his chest, looked up, and said that now she would not do it again, for she had made up her mind that she would not waste her life in envy of other people's good. Viola noted that she now realized her own worth, and so she wanted to help Duke and Robin be together, but not formally, but for real. With an inner sparkle, Viola's eyes caught the Duke's attention as she invited him to look at the result of her art. She pointed her hand in the direction of her painting, as if opening the door to her inner world. Viola emphasized that this artistic masterpiece reflected her new life and asked the Duke if it looked like Robina's work. The Duke said it was absolutely nothing like it. Viola asked the Duke if he hadn't chosen Robina for an engagement because he thought their relationship might grow into true love. The Duke was about to answer, but Viola said she already knew everything, so he might as well not even speak. Viola stepped away from the Duke and looked into the distance, visualizing the image of Robina. She said that Robina was very sweet, especially when she smiled, and perhaps that was why she envied Robina. It was as if she had sunlight coming from her. Viola turned to the Duke and said that he would eventually love her too. The Duke covered his eyes, exhaled heavily, and expressed his approval. Viola asked the Duke if he accepted her offer, but added that he should listen to her if he wanted to accomplish anything. The Duke asked what Viola would do if it didn't work out. Viola said that in that case she would take full responsibility, and casually spoke aloud her disappointment at not being able to paint the Duke naked. The Duke blushed, and covering his chest, asked Viola if what she said about the model was true. Viola interrupted him, saying that there were rumors going around that the Duke was castrated, so she thought he was the perfect model for her paintings. Viola covered herself with her hands and asked the Duke not to worry about it since she had already given up on it. The Duke once again asked her what she had just said. In response, Viola repeated the word castrate twice. Viola apologized, for the Duke was not a castrato, but just in case she questioned him again. Duke got embarrassed and asked not to think anything of the sort, because he just wanted to be clear and said loud and clear that he was not a castrato, and asked himself why he had to say it at all. Viola exhaled and said she had no other intentions, for she wouldn't call the man she wanted to seduce a castrato. The Duke said he understood her. Viola reached out, took the Duke by the sleeve, and said that in that case she was glad to cooperate. Viola came into the exhibition hall and was surprised that it was unusually noisy. She noticed that people were crowded around one painting. As she got closer, she realized that it was her painting. And so, in order not to die of shame, Viola decided to move away and hide, but she heard people discussing her painting. The girl said that it was the first time she had ever seen such a painting, and she thought it was very laconic and kind of free, because she didn't see any connection between the brushstrokes and the direction of the light. The man in the crowd said that it felt as if every stroke in the painting had been thought out and everything unnecessary had been removed. Viola was surprised, for she had just painted what she saw in front of her. Viola thinks all of these people are very strange, since she spent her whole life listening to what a talentless person she is. Just then, a girl approached the painting and marveled that Lady Viola had painted it. Viola decides to leave, as it is hard to listen to so much praise while hiding her embarrassment. But just as Viola was about to leave, she was stopped by Robina. A man and a girl came up to Viola. They said they were surprised that Lady Viola was able to paint such a thing, because the sense of color was so much softer and brighter, it was hard to recognize her hand at once. Viola thanked for the good feedback and said that from now on she will always create only in this style. She also added that she wanted to apologize to Robina for imitating her manner before. Viola told Robina that her paintings were amazing and that's why she wanted to paint as well. And more importantly, she wanted to be like Robina, such a bright and luminous person. Viola said that she had now decided to love herself for who she was and apologized to Robina. She realized that now was the right time for the villain to leave the stage. Viola, standing next to Robina, repents and apologizes. Robina struggles with her inner doubts for a few moments, but soon smiles welcomingly, forgiving her. Viola is delighted by her friend's words and even takes her for an angel, as not everyone would forgive her. Feeling other people's eyes on her, Robina responds to Viola, saying that this is not the best place to talk. Viola listens to her friend and they decide to continue their conversation outside. Out in the courtyard, near the fountain and the garden of thuja trees, where there was no one to disturb the girls, Robina finally asks her friend how she managed to seduce the Duke. She adds that she had seen her and the Duke talking quite intimately. Viola replies that everything is going as it should. This doesn't seem to impress Robina very much. From her friend's answer, she lowers her head and sharply clutches the hem of her dress, saying only a short, "I see." Viola decides that her friend didn't say everything she wanted to say. Robina was about to answer, but she interrupted herself. Viola tries to ask her friend what she's not telling her, but she says it's all right. She once again tells Viola that she trusts only her. The short conversation ends, and the girls agree to go back inside. A few moments later, a young guy walks up to Viola and grabs her arm, saying how much longer she is going to run away from him. The young man turns out to be Theo de France, and he was Robina's close friend, and also Viola's lover. Viola is not fazed by the young man's impetuousness. She finds his behavior very rude. The girl says that she is not going to answer his question as long as he holds her hand. The guy does not accept Viola's conditions and sets a condition. Before he lets go of her hand, she must answer his question. The girl screams back at him and says that she is hurt. His behavior now definitely seems boorish to her. Unable to resist, Viola answers the guy's question and says that she thought their relationship was over and adds that they have nothing more to talk about. But Theo says that he still has something to say. Robina was watching, and Theo noticed her. He asked the girl to leave him alone with Viola. With a squeak of her heart, the girl agrees. Surprised by this, Viola hoped in her mind that Robina would not be able to leave so easily. Viola thinks that her friend, seeing her friend in this position, should not have left her. Instead, she should have intervened in the conversation and helped her deal with Theo. Resigned to the fact that her friend won't help her, Viola uses the only method she thinks will free her from Theo's clutches. After gathering her courage, she steps on the guy's shoes with the heel of her shoe. Afterwards, Viola reprimands the guy. She has a mark on her arm from Theo's grip and says that her body is fragile and weak, so next time she will not allow such behavior to happen to her. Crouching down, Theo grabs his leg in pain. Behind her, Viola hears footsteps. She turns around and sees Robina. The girl runs in her direction. She turns to her friend and tells her not to worry, but Robina wasn't running towards her at all. Robina runs up to Theo. This leaves Viola feeling completely bewildered. She finds it hard to believe that her friend was more worried about this guy than about her. Shortly afterward, Viola meets the Duke in the room. She tells him that Robina and Theo are very friendly. He, in turn, says that he thinks Robina is more worried about Theo than her friend. After saying that, Viola starts to think. She thinks that the villainous role she played for Robina by stealing her boyfriend and her paintings might make it very difficult for her to be nice to Viola. She decides to wait for Robina to open her heart to her. Viola says that Robina is a nice girl. In response, she hears that her arm must be hurting. She thanks him for his concern, but replies that he should be with Robina now and show jealousy, since there is another guy with the girl. In response, Viola hears that the guy doesn't understand why he should be jealous. Viola says that it would be proof of his love for the girl, but the guy replies that he is worried about Viola right now. She says that her arm wound isn't serious, and it's better for him to go to Robina. It's his chance. At this time, Robina and Theo walk nearby and have a conversation, but it is quickly cut short when Theo sees Viola talking to someone else. This makes Theo angry, and now he begins to think that Viola is going to seduce someone else. Theo shouts in rage that he will never forgive the girl and raises his hand to strike. Viola closes her eyes in fear, repeating to herself that she can only take one blow. She stands there, waiting for the blow. Enough time passes, but there is no blow. A surprised Viola opens her eyes. She sees the Duke in front of her, who has covered the girl with himself. The young Duke abruptly grabs Theo's arm before he can strike. Holding the boy's hand in his, the Duke asks if this is the assertive young man Viola told him about. The Duke adds that instead of an assertive guy, he sees a mad horse in front of him who is going to run away from them. Looking at the situation with a calmer head, Viola begins to see not the assertiveness in the guy, but says that this is the behavior of a scum. Theo tells the Duke that he shouldn't get involved in the matter, but he hears back that the man can't stay calm when someone raises a hand on a girl. At that, he looks into Robina's eyes and asks if that's the case. The confused Robina did not immediately understand what he was getting at, but after hesitating, she agrees with the Duke. He, in turn, says he didn't mean to upset the girl with his behavior. She says it's all right. People begin to gather around them. Robina tells Viola that Theo is not like that and thanks the Duke, saying that if it weren't for him, Viola would be in trouble. However, the Duke stumbles a bit and begins to lose his balance. He tells Viola to be careful. Viola does not realize what the Duke is saying until it is too late. She sees the Duke falling on her and instinctively closes her eyes. When she opens them, she sees how she ended up on the floor with the Duke on top of her. The girl asks what's going on. In response, the Duke just makes sure Viola is okay. The girl replies that she is fine and asks the Duke to move away from her. The Duke apologizes and gets up off the floor. But in fact, Viola is not doing so well, for as she was falling, her hand, previously grabbed by Theo, hurt itself in the fall. Seeing that something is wrong, Rowena inquires about the condition of Viola's arm. She says that it looks like Viola hurt herself, but the girl denies it and smilingly replies that she's fine, just a little sore. The Duke walks up to Viola, pinching her arm and telling her that this can't be left like this. Viola doesn't understand what he's getting at. The Duke then picks up and leads the girl by the hand without further question in front of everyone. He continues to lead Viola. She does not understand or guess where she is being led. The girl tries to ask the Duke the purpose and place where they are going, but the guy ignores her questions, leaving them unanswered. Finally, Viola pulls out her hand and asks what he will do next. The Duke turns around in surprise and asks what the girl means. The Duke's behavior seems insolent to her, and she says that now, because of him, she looks like a liar. The Duke says he didn't mean for this to happen at all. Viola replies that whatever his intentions were, this is the result. After all, if he wanted to avoid Robina, he didn't have to take her with him. So now everyone will again think that she stole another man from Robina. She asks why the Duke would do such a thing. He tells her that he is still worried about Viola's hand. The girl says it's nothing. It can be cured at home. The Duke replies that he is worried because Viola is painting pictures. Remembering that in this world she is a hugger, Viola replies that the Duke is very caring. There is a painting on the table. The Duke says that the painting reminds him of a girl. Viola asks how he likes the painting. The Duke says that the painting is terrible. These words surprise Viola. The girl blushes and gets angry, but he continues and says that a man who has decided to love himself but does not care about his health, in addition to this and does not know about men, it is absurd, and the picture he sees before him is just as absurd. Viola is shocked by what she hears, and she bows her head, saying that she shouldn't say it so directly to her face. But the Duke says that despite the absurdity of it all, it's a picture that makes you want to look at it. The girl stared silently at the Duke after such a revelation. However, that's not all. The Duke says that the painting as well as the girl does not give him peace. He switches to another topic, remembering how Viola called herself a liar. She bows her head guiltily and agrees with the Duke. After all, Viola had once promised not to steal men from Robina or steal her paintings. The Duke calmly adds that in that case, it's all right, since he's not Robina's man. Viola opens her mouth in surprise. The Duke takes her surprise calmly and adds that it is only a rumor and that he has not yet chosen a bride. Viola doesn't believe the Duke so easily and reminds him that he was going to take Robina as his wife after all. The Duke agrees and says that he did intend to marry Robina, but that he hasn't yet. Taking a more important pose and running his palm through his hair, the Duke says that he is not yet married, adding that it's not certain. Viola lies on the bed, thinking about the situation. She thinks about the Duke and says that he doesn't seem to be a castrato. The guy seems like a gentle and loving man to her. Now every time she remembers the Duke's face at that moment, she gets a tickle in her soul. A knock sounds at the door. Viola rises from the bed and allows the guest to enter. Jenna appeared on the threshold. The girl silently and uncertainly entered the room. Realizing that something is wrong, Viola asks what is wrong. Jenna replies that she learned from Madame Marietta that Viola had an injured wrist. Viola recalls that she had seen Marietta, but at the time, she thought that Madame had not noticed her injury. Viola lets Jenna come closer and sit down on the bed. Jenna was a little confused, but she pulled herself together and walked over to Viola. However, not everything goes according to plan, and a basin of water falls out of the girl's hand. Jen apologizes for her clumsiness. Though Viola is embarrassed because she didn't demand anything of the girl. After taking a closer look at the girl, Viola realized that Jenna was still afraid of her. Realizing that something had to change, Viola walked over to Jenna and grabbed her by the shoulders, telling her not to kneel down for no reason. After all, she meant for Jenna to get on the bed. Jenna apologizes, but even here Viola says that you shouldn't do that, because it's not the girl's fault that Viola has an injured wrist. After hearing her out, Jenna smiles and thanks Viola. After a while, Viola sits in her room, remembering that she hasn't shown up at art meetings in a while. She sees two reasons for this. The first is an injury to her wrist. The second is the assertive men who surround her. Theo comes to see her. He says that he has put on clothes that the girl likes, clothes that can be easily removed with a single string. Such openly provocative behavior embarrasses the girl, and she screams and asks the guy to get out of here and not to pull any string. Viola is in her studio. She paints and paints a lot. It tires her and she says that she is fed up with the monotony. With these words, she just lies there surrounded by canvases and paints. Robina walks in and asks what's going on. Viola looks at the mess and says she was just bored at home. Robina apologizes to her friend for not being able to visit her earlier. Viola apologizes, but says that her hand is fine. However, Viola thinks to herself that she was much calmer before Robina came to see her, because since the day of their last meeting, many rumors have spread. Viola asks what her friend has been up to. She says, embarrassed, that she has received an offer to teach fine arts at the academy. Viola is happy for her friend and considers herself lucky, because Robina can explain everything in a calm and accessible way. But that's not what seems to bother the girl. She moves on to another topic, asking Viola what's wrong with the Duke. She says that the people around her would blame her anyway. Deep down, Viola accepts the role of villain that Robina talked her into. After all, she was the one who asked her for the favor. However, Viola wants to know if the Duke was telling her the truth about the engagement. She asks Robina bluntly if she and the Duke have agreed on an engagement. The girl replies uncertainly that they must have agreed. This vague answer leads Viola into a state of extreme bewilderment. The girl does not understand how it was possible to probably agree on the engagement, especially she had to endure and take on a lot because of it. Viola expects that Robina may be lying to her. She says that, according to the Duke, he and Robina are not engaged. Robina does not expect the Duke to trust Viola with such secrets, but she evades responsibility by saying that it just happened. Viola says that if that's true, she no longer has to fulfill Robina's request to seduce the Duke. In response, her friend says that she thought she and the Duke were engaged. These words lead Viola to believe that things are not going the way they were supposed to go. Robina then admits that she is not engaged to Evan. Vimola asks why, and the girl says it's because of the help Viola gave her. It turns out that Viola's desire to get Duke and Robina together has resulted in the opposite. Robina says the Duke himself asked her to break the engagement, but there's sadness in her face. Viola asks if that's what Robina wanted, and Robina says she doesn't know. The girl looks at Viola, whose shirt is smeared with paint, and wonders how she managed to win his heart. When asked by Viola whose heart she has won, Robina sighs and says that she has said it all. She then tells her friend that the director of the academy wants to meet with her. He liked the girl's painting. Viola asks why she has an appointment, and Robina says that Viola will be offered the same thing as her. She says that's why she's here, to announce the invitation to the academy. Robina says goodbye and says that they will see each other next time at the academy exhibition. When Robina leaves, Viola feels uneasy. She is embarrassed that the director of the academy has recognized her talent and is inviting her to lecture on fine arts. This seems too great an honor. Viola meets with her father. He asks her where she is going, and the girl said that the academy. So she also thought that maybe her father saw that she no longer drives a man and is engaged only in painting, so now at least responds to her, even though he still has no emotion on his face. Viola arrived and she is met very friendly. The girl said they hope she has made a decision and hope that her answer will be positive, and she said to wait because she needs to show her work first. She said that her paintings were different from other works, to which the woman said that that was why she had called Lady Viola. The woman's words shocked Viola, and she asked if she was serious, and added that she was not ready to teach students according to the conventional methodology, but said that she was not mistaken in inviting Viola to lie down. The girls talked. After this conversation, Viola realizes that the director was quite understanding, told her in detail about the lectures, which means that now it is possible to look around and walk around in this place. A girl noticed Robina next to a guy who wanted to pull strings. Robina said she did everything but nothing changed. And the guy said he didn't know why, and added that she had changed. Then Robina said she didn't like whining and asked him to go and find out what she needed. Viola noticed that they looked different, and that all this time, Robina was only pretending to be a modest quiet. But it would be more comfortable with her. But it would be better if she acted like that in normal life, because it's boring when she is kind. After a while, the Duke approached Viola and asked why she was here. She asked the same question and found out that he was the sponsor of the academy, and the girl said she came for the paintings. Then another guy burst into their dialogue. The same guy Robina had recently talked to. He asked why she was here, and why he had begged her so many times to meet, and she hadn't come. And Viola said she didn't like men dressed like that and those who looked at other women. The Duke touched Viola and asked her not to touch her, which made the girl very uncomfortable. He said that Lady Viola should not be touched, because from now on, she was dating him. A few days later, Viola still doesn't understand what's on the Duke's mind and why he did what he did, and after their conversation, the Duke has a fever and falls unconscious. But the girl the Duke will love for real is Roby. After that, Viola catches herself thinking about him and doesn't understand why she thinks about him so often. Then she tries to think about other things. She is worried that no student came to class. Why? Viola was surprised that not a single student showed up for her class. She walked out into the corridor and noticed that there were so many people in the next room, and she felt a little jealous. Viola was curious to see who was giving these lectures. She saw Robina and thought that the crowds came to her because she was good at drawing, but she decided to ask the students why they were standing at the entrance to the lecture room when it was already full of people. A student who was standing nearby said that Robina was having an open class right now. The girl remembered the words of Robina, who had said that it would be nice to know what her lessons were all about, and that was why she had an open class. The student said it looked a lot like Lady Robina. Viola was surprised. After all, an open class. It was a way she had recently suggested to the principal. It was a completely new form of class, and there had been nothing like it in the past. Viola decided to go to the headmaster's office to find out. When she entered the principal's office, she apologized for coming in uninvited, but said she wanted to know why Lady Robina was holding an open class. The principal was greatly surprised, for Robina had given no warning that she would be conducting a class of this nature. Viola said that Robina was teaching an open class right now, which she was going to do at the same time and on the same day. The principal put her palm to her face and said that it was very strange because Robina had come before and they had talked to her about Viola's lessons. The principal asked Viola if there was a mistake. Viola was upset and left the principal's office. She wondered what could be the mistake, and if it was a mistake at all, because she had agreed with the principal that she would give the lesson tomorrow, had packed all her things, and was ready to give an open lesson. When Viola was on her way home, she passed near the window outside Robina's office and happened to meet her eyes, and the latter, as if waiting for this moment, waved and smiled broadly. Viola waved her hand and thought, she felt like Robina wanted to show her superiority. Viola cursed. Apparently, Robina knew everything. She wondered what to do, because if she started to find out, Robina would probably pretend that she didn't know anything and start crying and apologizing. And then Viola would make herself look like a villain in front of all the students who was bullying her poor and weak friend. Viola pictured the conversation with Robina in her head. She had told her that she hadn't been paying attention even when she recognized her true face. But now Robina was determined to stab her in the back. Viola has decided to show Robina who she really is, because her reputation is already tarnished. She wants her to learn that you can't touch crazy people. Viola sits at the table, leaning on her arm. She is deep in thought. Viola had decided to teach Robina a lesson, but now she had another problem. Tomorrow's lesson. Viola wondered what she could do to get the students' attention. While thinking about it, she noticed on the table the diary of the real Viola, the owner of this body. Viola thinks that she has not seen it here before. Hoping to find something useful in this diary, Viola decides to read this diary. She opens the first chapter and is surprised to find that the first chapter is about Robina. Viola notices that from the looks of it, they really were very close. As Viola continued to read, less and less believing her eyes, for what was written there was very different from the story of the book, she wondered if what was written in the diary was true. Viola's diary started out quite positively. In it, Viola tells her parents that she likes to draw and they praise her, saying that she has talent. It goes on to say that Viola likes Robina a lot because she is a good friend. However, soon after they became friends, things started happening around Viola, to which she could not respond to anything. Immediately, men started talking to her first, and they acted very caring towards her, which seemed strange to her. Viola thinks that because of her close friendship with Robina, they also find her attractive. Viola thought her style wasn't bad, but Robina said it didn't look pretty, so she taught her technique, even though it wasn't necessary at all. Over time, Viola's paintings began to look more and more like Robina's style, as if it wasn't Viola who painted them at all. It was later revealed that all those men were Robina's lovers, and from the outside it looked like Viola was taking her men away. Viola writes that she didn't know anything, because it was all Robina's doing. She suggested to Viola that she would teach her to paint nudes when she was more confident with her brush, but now everyone around her says that Viola is copying Robina's style. The diary goes on to say that Viola met a man who, unlike others who like to be touched, always kept his distance from her. Then Viola decided not to think about what others said about her, because no matter what she said, no one would believe her. And now there was a man who took her seriously. Viola writes that this is the first time she has ever felt this way, and that it is all very exciting. The man said that he had a lover, and so Viola decided to wish him happiness, although it is possible that this lover is Robina. Viola asks herself why she is always and everywhere in her life. Viola writes that when she imagines them together, she feels very painful and bad. After Viola read the diary of the mistress of this body, she was so shocked by the contents that she began to breathe deeply and ponder. Peace in the soul, in office. Viola decided that she could never forgive Robin. The next day, Viola walked into her office. The Duke said he didn't expect this in any way. He asked Viola if she was doing one-on-one lessons. Viola thinks she's being bullied, and judging by the circumstances, it looks like she won't be able to have a lesson today. Viola asked the Duke if he could help her. The Duke agreed, as he had just canceled a class and had some free time. Duke asked Viola about the painting that was behind her, if the painting was painted in class. He thought it would be painted in open class, and Viola seemed to have already finished it. Viola explained that this painting is unfinished and it is her special technique. One of the girls says that she is not a peddler, Then why she needs a place in the square. She is trying to draw a picture with black paint. Another girl says that she heard that no one came to Lady Viola's class. Another girl suggests that the lady wants to make an exhibition. But for her, this picture is a bit different. And in general, how can you call it a picture? She just wants to draw attention to herself. It is such a pathetic sight. The girl thinks that she decided to try all the ways, but her level is so self, and then she raises her head and notices the guy next to her. Duke Evan, whether Lady Viola seduced him. Otherwise, he would not be there. Viola thinks that he, even when coloring, looks sexy. Viola turned to all those present and told them not to stand aside and let them try it too. She said that it was a master class and they must be interested in what Viola was painting. And the girl said that the girl had already spoiled the picture with black paint. What good could come out of it? But nevertheless, she agreed to participate and asked Lady Viola not to disappoint her. Viola says that if you scratch with this stick where it is already painted, to which the girl interrupts her and says that it is like magic. Just with a wooden stick, it turns out like this. One of the attendees said that he does not know how to draw, but even he liked this technique and this drawing. And Viola says that she would like all people to realize how interesting it is, whatever the drawing is. It can become part of a whole, because it is wrong to think that only those who have a talent for it can draw. So, says the girl, her classes can attend, and those who do not know how to draw, she teaches to express themselves and enjoy this activity with the help of different methods and techniques. After her words, one of the audience asked Viola when they could sign up for her class, and she smiled and said that she could do it today. So many people in the audience started to say that maybe they should sign up as soon as possible, because otherwise there might not be enough seats. After all, Viola's classes look interesting and not less useful to them. Viola is pleased that it looks like a lot of people want to sign up, while thinking about what Robina's next move will be, as she does now. The director was looking for Viola. She said that she had never noticed such a great talent in her before. All the seats were already filled, and that's why the students asked to open an extra class for them. After she said that she heard Viola giving a master class on the playground, the girl apologized for not warning her, and she said that there was no need to apologize because Viola could do what she wanted, and the academy would support her in every way possible. Later, she asked Viola if she would like to increase the number of lessons, and she agreed with a happy smile. Viola went on her way. She was happy, even though the beginning was not very good. But the result was great. Now she has many students and more lessons. She just had to pack her things and go home. But then she noticed that her brushes had disappeared. It surprised her a lot. Her brushes were a gift from her father. She was sorry to use them, so she just kept them new. She thought maybe she could find them somewhere nearby. The girl thought. She remembered that they had her name on them, so surely someone will find them and return them. But then she heard that someone came, and with that, she tripped and fell. A black-haired guy helped her not to fall and put his arm around her waist. Viola immediately noticed his nice face and pleasant voice, but tried to come to her senses. The guy said that he saw how she was in a hurry, so she could go. Viola thanked him and said that if they ever saw each other again, she would give him her paintings, although they were not so good as gifts. But who knows, she might be a future Picasso. Viola returned, but she couldn't find the tassel. The maid noticed that the girl returned upset and asked if she had succeeded in her plan. Jenna was genuinely worried about Viola, and then she said that there was a letter in Viola's name. Viola reveals a letter saying that he has her art supplies, and if she wants them back, she should come to the Duke's estate. Viola wonders if Evan de Foloa has taken her brushes. Viola told her maid that she would have to go to the Duke tomorrow and asked if she would be willing to help her prepare. The maid agreed, and then learned that Viola had been added to her lessons while she thought she might be fired. The girl was truly happy for her. The girl smiled at her mom and dad, who were trying to understand her mood, and said that she had just conquered everyone in the academy. Viola decides to go to the Duke's house. When she leaves, she promises Jenna that she will continue painting with her when she returns. Jenna looks at her with admiration, saying that she will be waiting for her. Viola finds this behavior of Jenna's cute. Even though her initial goal was just to practice on the girl, Viola is enjoying it more and more with each passing minute. She feels like she has an aptitude for teaching. Viola meets Robina on the doorstep. She asks where her friend is going. Viola replies that she is going to see the Duke. Robina interrogates Viola as if to reprimand her. Viola does not like this behavior. She wants to tell her friend about it because she herself has previously said that she feels nothing for the Duke. But Viola simply says that she has something to do with him and asks Robina what she wants. She replies that she just wanted to talk, but she picked a bad day. Viola says she is just in time and suggests that Robina go to the Duke's house alone. She says that the Duke has just sent her a carriage. Robina embarrassedly says she's glad she's okay because she was worried about her friend. Viola realizes that Robina was worried about her. Robina says she's always worried about the girl because they're friends. She says she was worried about her because all this girl's behavior was very unlike Viola. Viola asks Robina what kind of person she's seen her as all this time, if this behavior isn't like her. In her mind, the girl expects that Robina saw her as a doll who does whatever she's told. However, Robina avoids answering and simply says that she is worried because she is very dear to her. Viola thanks the girl, but says that she can manage on her own for now. After all, Viola is doing well at the academy, and the proof of that is that she's added students. Although someone is always interfering with her classes, which is why Viola even had to paint on the floor. However, Viola seems quite optimistic and says that she should even thank that man. At these words, Robina is clearly nervous, lowering her eyes. Viola says that if she is interrupted, it means that they think she is a competitor because she has a talent for drawing. Robina tries to support her friend, but says that she likes Viola's old paintings better. The girl replies that she won't paint in that style anymore. Robina insists and says that Viola liked to paint that way, but the girl cuts her off, saying that she doesn't. Then Viola tries to find out why Robina is trying so hard to bring her back to her old drawing style. The girl just silently lowers her head without saying anything in response. Viola gets into the carriage. Robina asks why she is going to the Duke, to which her friend says that the Duke must have missed her because he is so caring and courteous. In addition, she tells Robina that the good thing is that she and the Duke were not engaged. A surprised Robina interjects to ask what Viola meant. She replies that the Duke didn't like Robina's touch, but here was her he was embracing. Robina sadly says she was happy to help. Viola agrees, saying it's all thanks to her. They arrive at the meeting place and Viola gets out of the carriage, saying goodbye to her friend. Viola arrives at the Duke's castle. It turns out to be a very spacious and lush castle, which the girl compares to Robina's palace. This castle seems several times bigger to her. The Duke calms the girl, saying that her chin is about to fall off. Viola asks if she had to come here to get her things. The Duke replies that while she was at the academy, she seemed too busy. Besides, rumor has it that her classes have been increased. Viola says it's like this and asks for the brushes. Duke calmly looks at the girl and asks her to go inside. Realizing that he could have given the brushes here as well, Viola tenses up but goes inside. She and the Duke stroll through the corridors of the castle, catching the surprised looks of the guests. This confuses Viola. She doesn't understand the surprise with which she is greeted. Viola asks the Duke where the maids are, since she hasn't seen any yet. The guy calmly replies that she is the first woman who came to his house. This is all very badly perceived by the girl. She is literally out of breath from impudence and embarrassment at the same time. Duke continues and says that he's already reminded her that she's the only girl he's that close to, adding that she might be the last. Viola does not know how to react to these words. They seem to be a declaration of love, but their directness and lack of any excuse or warning make her deeply embarrassed. The Duke does not understand the girl's surprise and says that he has decided to thank her for the painting with something special. Viola thinks that the Duke is rushing things. At the same time, she notices on the wall the very painting she gave him. For her, however, it was just a keepsake. Trying to get back to the original reason for coming to the castle, Viola once again asks for her brushes back. The Duke says that since she is here, she should have tea with him. Viola tries to leave early and says she needs to get ready for class, but she can't do that without the brushes. The Duke says the chance to have tea with him is rare, but he surprises Viola by saying he's letting her go this time, but he promises that tomorrow they will have a cup of tea together. The boy smiles and says he will prepare a carriage for the girl. Finally, after the meeting, Viola comes out of the castle with a suitcase in her hands. She changes her face and wonders what she is doing here and why she is here.